All right. Good afternoon. My name is Taylor Homer, and I'm a senior here at BYU Idaho. It's my last semester, um, and I'm doing my last semester remotely. So, but I'm taking this class, and even though I'm a senior, I still feel like I learned quite a bit from it. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, why take notes? Um, I mean, really. If you go to a lecture and you just sit there and listen the whole time and you leave, sure you could do that. But when it's the next day and someone asks, "Oh, what did you learn yesterday?" It's easy to forget stuff. So how would you answer? There's a good chance you'd forget a lot of it. But if you wrote down even just a few things, then you could pull out your notebook and say, "Well, we reviewed this, and this." And that's really the main reason is so you can remember. It's meant to help us solidify what we listen to. And it helps with our short-term memory and long-term. But, mainly you hear it, you write it down, and it kind of makes a connection there, a physical, you physically hear it and then you physically write it down. I think that kind of helps your brain, at least in my view, to better grasp what you're learning. Um, and I think you can hit the high notes, right? If you sit there and listen to the whole lecture, then it's going to be hard to remember, okay, what was the most important part? Because there's always going to be a little bit of filler, right? Or moments that aren't as important, maybe. Or so hitting the high notes, you could, maybe the lecture's 30 minutes, but really there's only 5 minutes at the end that was the most important. So, right, you don't want to sit there and just take notes the whole time. You just, at least in my opinion, would write down those high points. Okay. Listening benefits. So part of note taking and being in a lecture is listening. You have to understand what you're hearing, and kind of like touching on before the high points. You have to figure out selective hearing to understand the high points. Um, so being able to do that, and that takes time and practice, and just trying to understand your professor. There's so many different scenarios that might be different for you. uh, Another thing would be, at least for me, is refocusing. I think it's really easy to get distracted, and some say, oh, by your phone or by someone in your class, but I think stress can be a really big distraction. There's class times where I'll go in and I'm not stressed and I can focus and I can pay attention, and there's times where I just am so stressed about something else I can't even focus to what I'm hearing, or it's just a mess. And so being able to refocus, there's it's inevitable. There's going to be times where you can't focus and pay attention, but being able to pull yourself back in, even just for a little bit, I think is better than checking out completely. So that's what I say. And then retention. Um, that would be a big benefit of listening, is just, if you follow those two things, then I think you can retain knowledge better, and just in general. If you're trying to listen, then you can retain. Types of note-taking formats. One of the things I particularly didn't like in this class was the Cornell note-taking strategy. I just wasn't for me. So it might work for some other people, but after testing it and kind of, you know, trying to understand it, it just wasn't a fan. So really, what's here on the screen is almost exactly what I try and do, and we talked about it in the class as well. Just being organized, hitting the high points, using colors, bolding stuff, and using bullets. As well as you could do all this but have terrible handwriting, and I think that makes a big difference. I think you could have all of the tools you need, notebooks, sticky notes, pens, papers, everything on your desk. But if it's a huge mess and it's everywhere, then it doesn't help. Same thing like, this paper up here. If it's, say all of that was terrible handwriting, I feel like it'd be a lot less incentivizing to review. But if it's really nice handwriting, clean, organized, and tidy, then it's enticing for me to want to go back and review these notes. And that kind of leads into my next point. But also it makes it easier to review the notes. Say all of the highlighted points are gone and things are kind of, maybe a lot less organized, then, you don't know where to start. You don't know what, you know, is the header. This helps organize it in a way where you can go from, right there what it says, from substance to elements to compounds to mixture. It splits it up for you in an easy to review format, because in the end, time is of the essence, and we can't spend forever studying. This helps it be quick for us, at least for me. Um, Maintaining focus while reading. This is tough for me. I think I can do really well in lectures and listening. It's the reading part, the textbook part that gets me. I don't feel like I have time for it. I don't feel like I really get a lot out of it. My attention span is terrible and I get frustrated. So I think after taking this class, setting goals would be good. Say, I need to read this textbook. How do I do it? Well, I'm going to read every other day for 30 minutes or an hour, and I'm going to split it up. I'm going to do 20-minute chunks and then take a 10-minute break in between. And I think that will help reduce frustration because you can sometimes if you just try and take everything at once, you just get burnt out, you get annoyed, and it doesn't work out, and in the end, you're learning less. And then reducing distractions. I like this picture because that looks very productive for me. So, um, as I was doing homework today, I was trying to do homework, and then I had college football up on the other screen, and I realized, wow, this is very distracting for me. So, as soon as I closed that, I noticed that I was doing a lot better. So getting yourself in an area that's comfortable for you. Some people might be able to do well with the show on or something, but for me, it can be tough. So next would be marking text. I like to do this. It's tough because everything's online, a lot of textbooks, or I never got an opportunity because I'd rent textbooks, so I didn't want to do this. So this can be hit or miss, but depending, if you want to spend extra money or if you even have textbooks that are physical. Because, I'd say unless you have like an iPad or a tablet with a really good stylus, um, and trying to mark up textbooks using technology is probably not worth it. Probably too hard trying to make text box and type things in. Doing things by hand is quick, right? I like this example because that's extreme, sticky notes, writing in the margins, little tabs, different colors, like it's just nuts, highlighted, underlined, little bubbles. So, I think being able to do that in the physical nature of it is very good. So if you can do it, I think it's beneficial because as you're reading back through, you can see, where you hit those high points. What can I do better? So I want to do these last two slides on what I can improve on in the future, going forward. Um, Reviewing my notes. I feel like I take good notes and then I just never look at them again. So it kind of feels like, what's the point? I feel like you have to have both. You can't just have one of them. So, and it only makes it worth it. So I think, being strict and just reviewing even a little bit after you take them the next day and before, your exam or whatever would be worth it. Instead of usually I'll just review it like right before an exam and it's kind of tough to remember what I was taking notes on or anything like that. So reviewing is something I want to do better at, especially in the professional world, like meeting minutes. I kind of wonder who actually reviews some of those. So I think it'd be important to go back through that and review because that's just the same thing. The next thing would be effectively reading academic texts. So like I stated before, I'm not great with textbooks. It's can seem dull. It can seem um, what's the word? Overpowering. Maybe that's the word, or overwhelming. Like you get a textbook, it's like, here you go, huge book, and you just feel stressed out. So I think finding ways to make it fun, like this picture, look, he's got a little textbook date. So, and he's so distracted he can't even look at his book anymore. So, but finding ways to make it more enjoyable. If you have a classmate, read it with them, find a comfortable area. Don't, maybe this area works better than reading a textbook in this area, right? I feel like this is better for notes. This looks more relaxing and better for reading. Like there, I couldn't sit there and take notes. It would be too comfortable. I would need something more rigid. But for reading, I think that's a better scenario for me. So being able to go out and do something like that and find a comfortable place to read the textbook would make it better. In conclusion, um, this class showed me to be more organized, be strategic, and review. So I still take notes in my full-time job doing construction management. I have to, I keep a journal with me and I just write down like basically a to-do list, but I have to hit the high points. There's so many people tell me so many different things in meetings and people coming into the job site trailer, and I have to keep track of stuff. And so trying to hit the high points, reviewing those things, and actually writing it down is important because if I never write anything down, people, I'd lose track of stuff so quick. And sometimes I'm really glad I wrote something down because, I'll write something down on a Friday, I'll close it up and I'll go back and Monday and I'll remember most of my list, but then there'll be like one or two things where I was like, wow, I'm glad I wrote that down because I totally forgot about that. I would have missed it. And so, being hitting the high points, remembering and just writing down things that are important. So this class only helps solidify those things and help me, learn the importance of it. So I put Einstein because you know, hopefully we can all be like him someday. So I don't know, it felt good, but this class was great, and I will be taking the things I learned into the future. So I hope you learned something. I hope I was able to maybe help you think differently about studying and note taking because doing this presentation sure helped me. So again, my name's Taylor. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. So thank you. Bye-bye.